Bruce Smiith. My God, it is so good to see you. When I heard you were running our trip, you have no idea how ecstatic I was because what's it been? 25 years?
Oh yeah. Like I was saying, you know, I think I first met you in 1991.
Yeah, I know. Oh, you sure it wasn't 1891?
Yeah, my daughters are like 1900s. Like, they don't even know anything before 2005.
It's crazy, right?
So yeah, it's been a long time.
Where was that in 91 that we met?
It was on the Searcher.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think it was probably a 5-day on the Searcher. I can't remember if it was like a Danny Jackson 7-day or if like a 976 5-day or something like that, but yeah.
And what were you doing on the Searcher those days? Were you cooking or?
Back then I was probably cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked deck and cooked, but I cooked mostly back then.
Yeah,
I kind of started in the galley position. I did whatever I could to work on a boat. Whatever position needed to be filled, that's what I did for art.
So here we are on board the Pride. We've had a great first day. We've had glorious weather. We caught some sea bass. We caught copious amounts of rockfish. Beautiful day, and now we're off taking a look around. But I know there's some people who are tuning in right now, and they're saying, Bruce Smiith, I wonder how he got started or what boats was he on? So could you give us a brief history of your life in sport fishing?
Yeah. I would love to.
Yeah, go ahead. It doesn't even have to be brief.
So I started, like I said, I started with Art Taylor. And you know, in the beginning, I was like 20, 21 years old, and I was a manager for Domino's Pizza, and I wasn't happy, and I quit my job, but I had been fishing a lot. And I'd been fishing long range, and I was on the Searcher a lot, doing 1.5 and 8 days and 5 days, whatever. And so I went to Art. I'm like, Art, I need a job. He's like, can you start next week? And I was like, yeah. You know, so right away, I grew up in Hemet, so I was driving down from Hemet whenever, but Art put me on right away. He gave me my start. From there, I spent 2 years on the Searcher. And
did you like working with Clicker?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. I learned a ton, you know, learned how the boat works and whatever, and the whole process. I mean, we're always learning, but and then the Royal Polaris always docked next to us.
That was like, oh my God.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was Rollo and Frank and Steve Loomis and Q Hara, and you know, they were just all this dream team on the Royal Polaris, and I was like, man, that's where I want to go. And Art's like, well, you know, I'm not gonna hold you back if you want to think you're gonna better yourself by going over there or doing whatever. And so I did. I talked to Rollo, and those guys, they put me on, and I started in the galley, and just to get my foot in the door. And after a year in the galley, I decided I didn't like it. Got my license.
What didn't you like about I mean, that galley work is tough.
It is, and it's monotonous. Repetitive. Yeah. Like travel days are the same as fishing days. And,
you don't get a break, right? You're doing the same thing.
It's like, you do your meals. You do your morning snacks, your afternoon snacks, and you make bread, and you do dessert as a galley, and that's every day. Yeah. I mean, there's no difference. You serve all the people and whatever, which was fine. I mean, don't get me wrong. And the Royal Polaris is it's top of the line.
Oh, God,
yes. As everybody knows. So, but I talked to Frank about it, and Frank said, you know, do whatever you got to do again. And so I went to school and got my license, and I got my license while I was on the Royal Polaris. So, and everybody had their license on the Royal Polaris back then. Right. You know, it was just one of those deals. So I moved out onto the deck. I stayed there for a year, and
did you find that more to your liking, working the deck?
Yeah. And then I went over and did an 8-day. I filled in on an 8-day on the Royal Star with Tim, and that was right in the transition of where Tim and Randy were taking it over. Okay. And I got along really well with Tim at the time. Yeah. So I moved over to the Royal Star with those guys, and that's where I really learned a lot. Really? Oh yeah. That's Tim and Randy and those guys. Tim taught me how to run the engine room, and then they gave me my first chance of driving a boat. I didn't drive any trips, but I was driving the boat back and forth from Cabo to San Diego on long trips. And it was one of those deals where I just worked every trip. Yeah. So it was like, I want to say it was 300 days a year, but when you actually count it, it's more like 270. Yeah. And, but it was it was every trip. We just worked every trip. I worked every trip over there. Did all the engine room stuff. Learned all the refrigeration stuff from Tim, and fishing from Randy and Tim too. Don't get me wrong.
I think that's.
And you see dolphins or something?
Probably. I'm not sure what the hell I saw. Right out. It's down now.
There's like a buoy out there.
Yeah. No, this is. You see that shiner up there? That looks like dolphin now, actually. Up here, this way, Bruce. See that?
Might be a kelp.
Yeah.
Let me go look at it.
All right, cool. You mentioned one thing about Randy teaching about the engine room.
Tim was mostly in the engine room, and Randy was great in the engine room too. I mean, I saw that guy fix some stuff. I just saw something
come out of the water there.
He fixed some stuff in the middle of a long range trip that just just blew my mind. Like,
and that. Oh my God. The hell?
That's bluefin.
I told you, man.
Look at that.
Jeez.
Wow.
Oh my God. I thought I saw something.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope folks you don't mind us. Go ahead.
All right, guys, we're gonna slide to a stop here. We got bluefin crashing on bait, knocking it out of the water. It's right on the bow right now. It's big fish. It's good ones. So let's get ready.
Our podcast will be Well, we'll just continue it right now, right?
I get sea lions.
I thought I saw
that's bluefin. No, there was bluefin.
There definitely was. You saw that bait come flying out of there.
It knocked it out of the water.
Yep. Oh, right here. Look.
There they are.
Look at that. Come on, hang one of those things, you guys.
Go ahead, guys. It's right here on the bow. We'll slide to a stop and drift here. We got fish coming underneath us. Fish coming underneath the boat.
Shoot.
This is bluefin here. It's diving out. It's doing what bluefin. Oh, this is a good school. Pretty good school. It's coming down about 100 feet. They're not real deep. They're hanging out under the boat. They made a second pass underneath us here.
Yeah. So I was saying, it's so important to know your way around the engine room, right? I mean, some guys don't.
Long range fishing, you had to get the boat home.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the deal.
Right.
And that's how I was taught by Tim and Randy. And that was as important as fishing on the Royal Star. Absolutely. You had to get those motors running and keep the toilets flushing and whatever.
All those little
everything.
Things.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize what a complicated job this is, and it comes down to also a matter of life and death sometimes.
Oh God!
I mean, you've got all those souls, lives in your hands, and you got to catch them fish, and you got to make sure the toilets are flushing.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
The responsibility that you have.
So it tends to be that the captain will drive the boat and look for fish.
Yeah,
but on the bottom line, it comes down, he's on the line.
Yeah.
So if your second captain can't go down and fix something, if you can't get that motor running,
you got to
move a battery or whatever, you've got to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So your second captain is kind of, he's going to be working for you.
Yeah.
But your butt's on the line.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's all up to you.
So how long were you on the Royal Star, and then where did you go from there?
Man, I was on the Star until 99.
Oh, wow.
So just a few years, 3.5, 4 years. At that point, I think it was 4 years, and then again I went to Frank and Tim. I went to talk to Tim first and said I wanted to go run a boat, and then Frank's like, "Oh yeah, okay, start you next week on the Shogun."
Oh my God!
I was like, "Nice!" And they just like threw me into the fire. I went over to the Shogun and I think it was like in a week I ran my first 4-day.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that 4-day? Was it successful?
Yeah. The first day it was really rough.
Yeah.
And the first day we had 189 albacore.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice way to start your career. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it ended up being a good trip, but man, it was rough. I remember that.
The weather?
Yeah, the weather was jacked up.
And then you stayed on the Shogun how long?
13 years.
Wow. Were you the owner of the boat or not?
No, it never got to that point. Norman, I helped Norman out. Between Norman and I, we ran the boat. He ran the boat maybe half the time, and I ran the boat at the other half the time. But I was on the boat most of the time. Definitely obviously all on whenever he took trips off or this and that.
When you got over on the Royal Polaris, Norman was no longer a deckhand there, right? He was a deckhand way before that. When
they had built the Shogun way before that,
Yeah.
and the original Shogun.
Yeah.
So he built the original Shogun in the early 80s.
Right.
The Renegade.
Right. Right.
Or the
Relentless.
now.
Right.
It was the Renegade.
Yeah. Right. I think, and it was the Top Gun
Top Gun.
Yeah, Top Gun. Right.
So
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, Bobby Taft owned it after
Yes.
Norman. Norman sold
Yes.
it to him. Changed it to Top Gun. Anyway, so that was the original, and then they built the new one, and it ran out of Port Skull.
Port Skull. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yes.
And then they switched it into a long-range boat.
Yeah.
And that was somewhere in the 90s.
Yeah.
They switched it over to and brought it back down. So anyway, in 99, I ran my first long-range trip.
And did you enjoy your career on the Shogun?
I got real comfortable.
You did. You and I were talking a lot on 976.
Yeah. It was a big deal
Yeah.
calling in back then.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, calling in every day. Anytime you caught fish. No way. Come on, get him.
Do we have one going?
Yeah, he just hooked one.
All right.
Nice.
You want to get out of here, or do you want to go? You want to keep going up here, or do you want to? We better get down, huh?
Yeah,
we'll get this going again.
Okay.
We got another one going. Here we go. We're starting to rock the boat here. All right, Carlos is on. Joe's on. Mike's on. Bruce. Every time we don't get a bite, we got to start the podcast again. You realize that, right? Coming through. Leaner's here. Nice fish. Coming to color here, boys.
See him?
Yeah.
Get you in this corner over here.
Corner.
What?
Nice big one, man. Nice fish. Stick him on the head. Boom! Nice going, Joe! Joe! Way to go, man! Woo! Nice fish. Oh, what the hell? What the hell? Oh, that's too much. That's freaking awesome. A bluefin tuna, a big old boccaccio, and a red. What the hell? Come on, you guys. This is awesome.
Probably
All right,
over.
good stuff.
Probably over a high spot.
Well, here we are back in the wheelhouse. We got a nice bluefin on the boat.
Yeah.
Kind of interrupted our podcast, but that was a nice interruption, wasn't it, Bruce?
Yeah, that's all right. That's what we're here for.
We'll take that. And we hopefully will get interrupted again soon. And
Yeah.
Joe Martinez, he had that 300+ pound fish. Talk about the right guy hooking the fish, man. He knows how to do it. And he's a great guy. Super good guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw his picture on Facebook the other day with that 300 pounder.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we were talking about your career on the Shogun, and you really enjoyed that time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I learned a lot. I got my chance of running the boat. And we did a lot of really neat stuff on the Shogun. We did those Monterey Bay collection trips.
Talk about that. What was that?
We worked with Barbara Block and Chuck Farwell from Monterey Bay Aquarium and the Tuna Research Center, Conservation Center, the TRCC up in Monterey.
Yeah.
Stanford University, and we went out and tagged fish. We did 2 of them a year. One was collection and one was tagging.
Yeah.
Which we collected on the tagging trip also if we ran it across the right size of tuna. So all the tuna in Monterey Bay Aquarium that people go look at come from the Shogun.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, it is really neat.
So we were all a part of that. And then they grow them, we catch them. They want them as small as possible, like 8 pounders, preferably.
Yeah.
But they would take up to like 25 pounders if we could get them up there in good shape.
Yeah.
But the small ones, they could collect more of them, and they lasted better.
Yeah.
They don't take up as much room, so they don't beat themselves up in the fish wells and whatever, because they have to truck them up there. So we would go out for 2 weeks, collect these fish,
and keep them alive in the bait tank?
Keep them alive in the fish wells, in the tank, in the DAC tank, in the slammers. Yeah. So the Shogun is plumbed for 3 slammers. It can hold fish in all 3 of them, which are fish wells. Eventually, they turn into fish wells. But for that purpose, we have them all plumbed. We ran oxygen to them all on manifolds and whatever to keep these fish alive. and bring them back to Scripps Aquarium or Scripps Research Center, the pier, which is in San Diego Bay, and they would have a truck there. They had a truck, a specially made truck with a tank on it, and we would transfer them into the truck, and then they truck them up to Monterey.
How cool!
Yeah, that was awesome. So, and it was, it kind of hurt the side money. But
yeah, right.
Because we would do these 14-day trips in the middle of summer,
Oh.
like prime time, you know. But that's how you did it. That's how you go about it. Do it, and we run out there and we catch. Back then we were catching 100-pounders. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't
Yeah.
like 200-pounders. It's so different.
I know.
So different now.
Things
And
have changed so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so with Barbara Block, we would just stay up here and catch bluefin, tag 100-pounders, put those archival tags in them. They'd come in and cut them open, put a tag in them, and then we'd chuck them back over the side.
Yeah.
And they got a lot of really good research of them going over to Japan and then coming back and going back and forth, and so that was.
Did it stimulate your curiosity and want to learn more
Oh,
about?
absolutely.
I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
And you probably felt like you kind of had the inside track,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. They gave us books of just notes and graphs and whatever that certain tuna. So they had a number of 25 or maybe 50 tuna that would go back and forth, and they just had all this information on it.
Yeah.
And they just gave it to us on the Shogun. They just ran copies of it, and
How
we
cool.
just had like volumes of stuff. For
Were you
bluefin.
reading this stuff?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of dry.
I know, right? It's not like an interesting, sexy novel, is it?
Right.
Yeah. Oh my God. The sex life of the bluefin tuna is
Right.
not all that
Yes,
interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but we learned a lot.
Yeah.
You know, we learned back then. You know, all that fish started off of Mag Bay, and then worked its way up, and we never even thought about that.
Yeah.
You know, and actually the seiners kind of got in on that because they were kind of a part of it. You know, they wrapped so much tuna, and they had the archival tags that they wrapped. There's a lot of stuff that happened at that point, and
Yeah.
it has to do with limits and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like we would, I probably shouldn't say anything because I'm not real sure on the exact numbers or whatever. I could be easily wrong, but you know, we would go out and we would tag these fish, throw them back in the water.
Yeah.
And a month later they would get wrapped, and then so they would count that as you know, retrieved archival tags.
Yeah.
So there was really a high percentage of our fish that were getting caught.
Yeah.
Like 90%.
Oh my God, that high.
But yeah. Either, I mean, some of the sport boats caught some, but it was very small. I mean, they were going out and getting wrapped, but they were getting wrapped within.
I'm looking at birds sitting on a kelp out there. You see it?
Is there a kelp there?
There's a big kelp.
Oh, well,
Sure looks like it.
you probably have to go.
I'm pretty sure if you look out there, you see that? Those birds sitting there? It's probably 2,000 yards.
No,
yeah,
I see
it's
it.
a giant kelp.
We'll go drive by it.
Yeah, why not? There might be some flatheads
Yeah,
on
there
it.
might be some Dorado on it.
Especially because we resumed the podcast and
Right, it's probably getting catch draw now.
and so
So a lot of a lot of the fish that we tagged were getting caught by
Yeah.
seiners, and they were being reported. So that's what kind of instituted the whole 3 fish limit on bluefin.
Okay.
Was because of so much was being caught.
yes.
Now, do we know if there was another whole population 100 miles offshore?
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Right.
So we don't. They just knew about what they were getting back, the information that they were getting back, and the information that they were getting back from those archival tags was it was getting caught.
Yeah.
That fish was getting we would put a tag in it. Like I said, 2 months later, it would get caught by a seiner. They'd send in the tag, and then they'd look at the data. So like 90% of our tags were getting returned.
Uh-huh.
That was a lot.
And that was mostly due to seiner pressure, commercial fishing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the live capture guys. But back then they didn't have a quota.
Uh-huh.
So they were just like the live capture guys would get their fish, and then the catch and kill guys would come up and turn it into dog food.
Yeah.
You know, they were just like Mexican fleet was coming up and just decimating.
Yeah,
it.
like the Mazatlan fleet would come
Yes.
over it, right?
Yeah, I don't want to say any names or anything, but yeah, those guys would come up.
And rape and pillage. That's what I'm getting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that was their job.
Yeah. Right.
They couldn't get yellowfin down south, so they came up and caught bluefin.
Exactly. And so, do you think that limiting those types of activities has produced what we're looking at here? We just interrupted our podcast with why do we have this?
Yeah.
If you had to take a guess, and I'm going to say that your guess has some basis in. I mean, you've studied this stuff. There's that kelp, everybody. Some birds sitting on it.
Look in the water. If I don't see anything,
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going. We're not going to stop.
See any color spot there or anything?
No, I don't see any. They're not rushing the boat.
Yeah.
So then they put a quota on them.
Yeah.
You know, live capture guys put a
Yes.
quota on them and whatever. And so, did it help? Man, it's hard to say.
Uh-huh.
Sure, yeah, it helped.
Yeah.
I mean, how it couldn't?
Yeah.
How couldn't it help
Yes.
without the catch
all
and
that
kill
pressure,
guys,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the catch and kill guys coming up and taking thousands and thousands of tons and whatever, you know. So yeah, it helped for sure.
But you seem to think that
It helped us immensely.
Okay, the sport guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then we didn't have the pressure, the seiner pressure.
Right.
Because we were going down there and competing with the seiners
Oh
back
my God.
in the 90s
You
and
remember
early
that?
2000s.
They'd wrap you,
Oh,
right?
God. They would go right down the side of the boat.
Yeah.
And they don't bite, you know, in those
No.
scenarios. And so that helped us immensely.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, it's helicopters flying all
Oh,
over
yeah.
the place, and they're wrapping boats.
Yeah.
And they didn't give a F, did they?
No.
No.
No, we had to get out of their way. We did. And what are you going to do? I mean, you have passengers on the boat. You're going to be all a tough guy and try to get in the way of a seiner?
Yeah,
Like,
that's not. Yeah, exactly.
like a 300-foot,
Yeah.
1,600-ton seiner.
You're gonna
like,
lose, right?
They're honking at you. Like, okay. Guess we're going to go try to find another school.
Man, I'll tell you, like, just that whole Monterey Bay thing, and now that you talk about the seiner stuff, you mentioned some other stuff that was really interesting on the Shogun. Did a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah, you know, we went to Clipperton a number of times.
Yeah.
And with the radio guys, with the ham radio operators, and we put them on Clipperton, I want to say 4 times.
Really? So what
Yeah.
was that all about?
So ham radio operators go to different places in the world, set up, and then broadcast from there. They go to desolate places. And then
Clipperton's pretty damn desolate, right?
Clipperton is on the list, and it every 10 years or so it climbs the list because nobody has broadcast from there.
Oh, gotcha.
In 9 years, and seven years, 9 years, 10 years, and 10 years. And once it gets to the top of the list, then they want to go back.
Yeah.
So
It's a tiny atoll off Costa Rica, right? It's in Costa Rica
actually,
waters?
it's straight off of Panama.
Oh, okay.
It's 1,600 miles off of Panama.
Wow.
Oh, wait a minute. No, it's like 2,000 miles off of Panama and 1,600 from San Diego.
Uh-huh.
So, and it's kind of, it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
600 miles above the equator.
Uh-huh. What was it like just for the first time driving up on it? Did you feel like, wow?
Oh, yeah.
This is so
I've been
cool.
I've been to Clipperton like 10 times.
Uh-huh.
With just regular fishing trips. And then we did fly fishing trips there. And then we did these ham radio operator trips.
Did you do any fly fishing trips with Nick Curcione? Do you remember Nick?
I know. Yeah, I know Nick.
I
Yeah.
saw him like a month ago.
Yeah.
He's still doing well.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He's a great guy.
Oh my God, he's funny, isn't
Yeah.
he? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
super
he
good
was
guy.
my sociology professor at Loyola.
I don't doubt it.
It was so funny. You like to fish? Yeah. And
Yeah.
then we were instant, buddies at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But back to Clipperton. What a
So-
fascinating place.
Totally. Absolutely. Just out in the middle of nowhere, wild, wild west by far and
Yeah.
away, drug runners and this and that. And ships up on the beach, and that they've crashed into the island, and just this crazy place, hot and humid, and the surf is gigantic. It's huge. And we would have to get these people on the beach.
Wow.
So we would have to haul all of their radios and antennas, and they're like 50-foot antennas.
Jeez.
With the cables, and they're strapping them down, and the tents, and the
Did
whole
you
nine
get them
yards.
in there in skiffs or what?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
inflatables.
Oh, okay.
So we would just load the inflatable and take the stuff in and unload it and come back through the surf. And, you know, some days the surf was manageable, and some days you couldn't get in there.
Yeah.
You just couldn't. So you dropped off a lot of water to them and fuel and whatever for the generators, and you try to get food to them every day. And usually we did, but there were some days that you couldn't.
Yeah.
Because the surf would get too big.
Yeah.
It was just the crew during those trips.
Yeah.
So the crew was at Clipperton by themselves with these inflatable skiffs.
Oh my God.
Oh God.
What,
it was so fun.
Goofing around fishing. And...
Oh yeah, like they would, like a spot of fish would come up like a half a mile off the island.
Yeah.
Like, come on, and you know, Jason Reese, he was on the boat at the time or whatever, or Whitey on the Shogun,
Yeah.
or on the Pegasus, who owns the Pegasus now. He was on the Shogun at the time. We would jump in the skiff with a couple of marauders and big jigs, take the skiff out there, get to the bird school and just dump the marauders in, and it would go like 20 yards. 100. Throw a 150 pounder in.
Oh my God.
And then throw a jig out and get like a 100 pounder, and then you go back to the boat like you got a 150 and a 100 pounder in the skiff. Like, well now what are we gonna do? It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh my God.
and you go back to the boat and you cut the fish, and yeah, it was awesome. But what was really fun was the inshore fishing with the bluefin trevally and
Oh
just
God, yes.
which is, if you ever seen an alua, you know, that's what they catch in Hawaii. Well, the bluefin trevally is like a smaller cousin of an alua.
Yeah.
And they're super pretty. They're blue and gray, but that's the dominant surf species at Clipperton.
Yeah.
And it's world record stuff, like world record bluefin trevally fishing there.
Wow.
So I took one day and went in there and had all my fly fishing stuff and got all the leaders ready, IGFA, this and that, had my video camera. And I got 2 world records in that day.
You did?
Yeah.
Do you still have those?
Yeah, certified in the book.
Oh, that is freaking awesome.
Yeah, on the fly rod. I got the biggest one ever landed on a fly rod, which was 22.5.
Jeez, that's awesome, Bruce.
And then I landed one on 4 kg, which was like a 13-pounder.
Which
is 8 pound.
Yeah.
Which was really something, because it was like a 13-pound trevally on 8 pound in the surf and whatever off the beach.
Oh, at Clipperton Island.
Oh yeah.
How surreal is
I went
that?
in there for the whole day. I had my water and everything, and I got most of it on video.
Oh.
I would set up the camera and then I'd go fish, and it shows me hooking them and whatever.
Oh my God, I'd love to see that.
Which really helps with IGFA.
Yeah.
Anymore, for IGFA to recognize a record, you have to have video. You have to have like cast to catch.
Oh, you do?
Practically, yeah, because cheating and whatever, and this and that, and so they want as much information as possible before they put your name in the book. It's still really prestigious.
Yes.
In my world, it's prestigious.
That
it was a big deal.
That's incredible. I mean, how you just had to have felt like. I mean, just to be on that atoll in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And now you're setting world records.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a great part of your life that must have been. And great memories, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Diving and getting lobsters and just then bringing them back to the boat. And those were fun trips.
Seems to me I remember like a big shark problem at Clipperton.
Huge.
At times.
Huge.
Yeah. Were those brown sharks or what?
Brown shark, they're called silkies.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part.
And that was a pretty omnipresent thing?
Yeah. There's just lots of sharks there.
Yeah.
Lots of different kinds. There's silver tips and black tips and just all sorts of
So when you're catching yellowfin tuna or anything, you're dealing with sharks most of the time?
Yeah. It's just like clarion or whatever, or Socorro, those kind of sharks, same thing, but they're unrelenting down there. There's no fishing for them really, nobody fishes for them.
Yeah.
Even though you do see long lines on the island that have washed up on the island, so there is a commercial presence, but not much.
Yeah. It's just too far out in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah. It's really not worth going there.
Who was was it Frank that decided to go there the very first time for a sport
boat? Frank was the first one to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the 70s. Yeah, he's got the video, Clipperton Odyssey.
That's right. Did Michael Folks probably have some? Yeah. That's
he did
right.
it after, not Deep Color, but the first one, whatever that one was. But yeah, they did Clipperton's Odyssey after that.
And did you watch that and say to yourself,
Oh, yeah.
I want to go there someday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had good times at Clipperton. And Clipperton's funny, it's because it's a real love-hate relationship. Like, people either love it or they hate it.
Why?
Because it's so much.
Yeah.
It's so hot. A lot of times you're fishing
Gotcha.
at night. If you're conventional fishing tuna and whatever, you're fishing, a lot of times you're fishing at night. There's so many sharks. There's so many dolphins, that are eating your bait and whatever. It's like an eat or be eaten kind of place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Survival of the fittest,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And it can be really great tuna fishing, and it can be not good tuna fishing.
Yeah.
Like, you drive 6 days there, and there's nothing there.
And then what do you do?
You catch 80 wahoo, and it's like, wow, what are we doing now?
Yeah, right.
So, but anyway, usually there's tuna there, and usually it's off the edge, and you go hit bird schools and whatever.
Yeah.
And it can be fantastic for yellowfin fishing. It can be.
How come nobody goes there anymore?
I think it's just too far,
Yeah.
especially now with
This stuff going on.
200 pounders right here. I mean, why do you even go to Clarion
I don't know.
at this point?
Yeah.
Or Hurricane Bank? I know they do, and I would love to go back to Clarion and Hurricane and all that and see it again. That was a special place.
Do you have any great Clarion or Hurricane Bank memories?
Yeah.
Or just a
I mean,
general
just-
overall feeling of how special
It's just,
it was?
yeah, it's just a general overall feeling. I mean, we loaded the boat. We caught whatever, a lot of 200 pounders down there and 300 pounders and this and that, and it was fantastic. That was the place. But see, back then, that was the place.
Yeah.
Like, you had to go there to
Right.
catch a 100 pounder.
Right.
A 100-pound yellowfin tuna, 100-pound club.
It was a big deal.
Oh, it was huge.
Yeah, instead of driving out to Catalina Island now and maybe catching
No,
one.
you had to go on a 16-day trip.
Right.
You couldn't go on a 10. You couldn't. This was before before Magdalena Bay and before Puerto Vallarta.
Yes.
And whatever. And granted, in my time, we did have 2-speed reels. I wasn't a part of the single-speed deal, but we had 2-speed reels, but it was still all mono.
Yeah, right.
When I was there.
So you're tossing rods over the side, right?
Oh, yeah. Couple of different on backups.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was really special
Yes.
back then. Like,
Yeah.
there was a very select group of people that could afford it, that could afford that time off. So we had firefighters and retirees and
Right.
doctors.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It seemed like, and they would fill the boat, and we would go down there, and man. And a lot of times it wasn't great fishing. It was
Yeah.
just like a pick, like Guadalupe or Vallejo's, where you just one here, one there. You get a flash in the morning. You get 10 or 12, but they're good ones. You know, they're 100 pounders. You really didn't keep much under 70. But which brings me to the 100-pound club,
Right.
which people probably don't even know about anymore.
I know. It's probably been
And
forgotten.
that was such a big deal.
To have
in
the jacket and
in my
everything?
mind, yeah.
Yeah,
The
right.
100-pound club.
I
To
remember-
get invited to a 100-pound club.
Right. And you see somebody with that jacket on, you're going, wow, I would love to.
Yeah, and the patches.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it was such a big deal.
It was.
Like, those guys, Bill Poole started it and Frank took it over, and Frank ran it most of the time. They were spectacular parties. He had a band, and it was open bar, and it was lobster and prime rib, and the trophies. I went to pick up the trophies from Roberts. I had to take my truck. There were so many trophies, and they
Wow.
were like modeled little fish. They were like little yellowfin tuna, like
Yeah.
a taxidermy little yellowfin tuna on the trophy. He threw so much money into that, and it was such a spectacular thing, man.
It was a smart idea, wasn't it?
Oh, it kept us coming back.
Yes.
Yeah. And we'd bring everybody up and give them awards, and it was, God, I miss those days.
I know. Is there any bringing those days back?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, that sounds like such a good idea to celebrate the sport and your accomplishment. And,
Yeah.
I mean, Joe just got this 300-pounder. I mean, he should get something, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tucker ought to give him something.
Yeah, wait. Tucker, are you listening?
Give him a jacket anyway.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
Exactly, man.
But it's really, it's really crazy just how it's changed, how we've watched the ocean change. It feels like it moved like 500 miles.
Right.
Like everything was down here, and then it just like ka-chunk, it just like moved 500 miles.
Yeah, and it's camped here now off, you know, San Diego, off LA, Orange County, northern Baja.
They saw it in the early 1900s with Zane Grey and all that, fishing 100-pounders at Catalina.
Yep.
With kites back then.
Yep.
Mr. Farnsworth and this and that, but no, we never thought it would come back.
I know.
You never think it would be a cycle.
No, because you often think that those were the good old days, and they're not coming back.
Yeah.
That's when fish were really plentiful, and that's when. And, oh my God,
that's
look
at
this.
The other thing I wanted to say. I was thinking about this. Is when I was a kid, we went out to the Coronado Islands, and we would catch like 7 yellowtail, and it was a good day on a sport boat, or go to San Clemente, you get like 12 yellowtail for the day.
Yeah.
I know Brian Kiyohara talks about this, and now it's like there's so many yellowtail.
I know.
That you go out there and you catch 50 or 70 or whatever every day.
Every day. It's so counterintuitive. I can tell you that when I was a kid in Redondo, one of the reasons I didn't pursue a captain's license was fishing was so crappy that I couldn't imagine it getting any better. It had to, in my pea-brain mind, because I misjudged this. In my mind, it was going to get worse. And
you would have thought so.
Right?
I totally understand that.
And all of a sudden, like you say, it's the best fishing that we've seen in our lifetime. Ever. And we've
never seen anything like this.
Yeah, because you're pounded in the head. It's overfishing, and there's pollution, and there's this, and there's that, and the ocean's falling apart, and everything's going to hell, and it certainly is not.
The ocean's not falling apart.
It's not. But people try to, some people try to tell you that, and obviously...
I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends in that sector.
You mean the green?
The green sector.
Yeah.
They look for things wrong with the ocean so that they can
make money.
For grants.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, because if you say the ocean is polluted, we need some money to fix this, people, out of the generosity of their hearts, will donate.
And I don't want to say that that's bad, because they are looking out for the ocean. But they're also looking out for themselves.
Yeah, that is subject to really some bad stuff. I mean, if you get the right person who really is trying to take care of the ocean, I get it. You're right. But you could get somebody who says, hey, this is a freaking great con game. All we got to do is fool these guys, and they're going to open their pockets and throw money our way. And
there's a lot of people with a lot of money that aren't out here seeing it firsthand.
Right. And they take the word of other people.
Right.
Yeah.
And even those people in the green industry or that sector aren't out here.
Right.
And seeing it.
Right.
They're not out here. They're not out here.
They're not out here seeing all that bait and bluefin just bust up off our bow a second ago.
Right.
How incredible a sight that was.
Yeah.
Even though it screwed up our podcast. No, actually enhanced our podcast. But this marvelous stuff you get to see out here, and the empirical evidence, it suggests that the ocean's very healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know that there's populations of certain species. Yellowfin, for one, the Eastern Pacific yellowfin, it got hit hard.
Yeah.
Those seiners, they hit it hard.
Yes.
And there is not as much as there was. Big eye, absolutely freaking hit hard.
Yeah.
All that stuff, we don't see big eye anymore.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't know if it has to do with the ocean currents or this and that or whatever, but we used to see big eye.
Yeah, all the time.
But we don't see albacore either. So there's no problem with albacore population.
Yeah, no. I think that's oceanography, and it's just too warm down here, right?
Right. So yeah, I think it's what we see nowadays. I think the ocean in our sector is in pretty good.
Oh, you have to believe it is, man.
Yeah.
I mean, because as you have pointed out, we're in the days of Zane Grey again, the 100 years ago fishing, and it's right here, right now.
Yeah.
And now we have the tackle to be able to catch more of the fish.
See, the tackle improvements.
Yes.
Yep. That's the reason. That's one of the main reasons that we catch as many as we do.
I think so.
That we land as many as we do.
Yeah.
And we're still all screwed up, you know, like, like you start getting the general public out here, putting them on 200-pounders.
And they're going to lose a bunch of them.
I mean, you can imagine how many we lose.
Yes.
Because you see how many we land.
Yeah.
It's like, we lose a lot.
Yeah. Well, we'll probably get what we hope to get a taste of that tonight, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we have a good shot at it.
I do too. That was certainly a nice omen, that one fish we just got a second ago.
Yeah.
Where are we headed to, by the way? Just to jump out of
I don't think it's a secret or anything, and this podcast will probably come out later.
Yeah.
But we're going towards San Clemente. We just left San Nick, where we had pretty good fishing.
Great fishing.
It was a fun day.
Yeah.
And we let the weather come down last night. We kind of paid for it getting out there, but it was, you know, we caught some sea bass and all sorts of stuff. Big calicos.
Oh my God, there was a big calico bass. Beautiful fish.
There can be some good calico fishing out there.
You know,
not a lot of people know about it, or it's too far.
I know,
for calicos.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but so when you get on them, like in this, especially this time of year, or maybe October, November, you see a lot of those 6-pounders.
Yep.
A lot of 4 to 6s.
And there's all kinds of small little stories going on the boat here today, but one of them has to be Jonathan's birthday.
Yeah.
I give him a brand new Daiwa rod for his birthday, and courtesy of Daiwa. And what does he do? He catches the first sea bass on the boat and his first sea bass.
Yeah.
I mean, could you have written a better script?
No, that was pretty sweet.
Yeah. And his dad cooked up that beautiful lunch for us today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That hot sauce was on point.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
That was good.
Man, that was homemade comida mexicana.
Carnitas was great.
Oh my God, that was good. So back to Clarion and those areas. Anything else that you remember? I mean, you said it was a general, but I mean, you had to have had awesome wahoo days.
Oh yeah, we used to jump over the side and swim under the boat and watch the tuna feed.
You did?
Yeah, we would, you know, like in the middle of the day, not much going on, and we just have like little fish roaming around the boat. You could chum them up, and they would come up and feed, and then you could lift pole them or do whatever.
Oh my God.
And just in the middle of the day, so we would jump over the side and watch them, or we would jump over the side and watch fish in the chunk line. And those were, you would see big ones doing that, like 150s
and watch them feeding and everything?
Yeah, they just come up the chunk line and, you know. So
did that help you as a fisherman to watch them feed and see how they feed?
It did. Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Because you would think that you had this idea that they were just like under the surface, but they weren't. They were like 50 feet down there. And they would come up and eat it and then go back down to like 50 feet.
Oh, okay.
They would swim all the way up and then eat it and go back down.
So they'd see it.
Bluefin were the same way. I jumped in with bluefin one day. We were just on one of these collection trips where we were like literally lift pulling bluefin on the Shogun.
Yeah.
And I jumped over the side and checked it out, and it was the same way. They were down there like 40 feet. It's just a solid, like as bluefin as far as you could see.
Wow.
And they were like swimming with the boat, and then you'd throw bait over the side. Somebody would throw bait over the side, and it'd land, and they would, 5 or 6 of them would come up and eat it, and then go back down and join the school.
Oh God.
Yeah.
And you weren't like concerned about like all that feed in the water and a shark maybe?
Yeah.
Did you ever bump into it? I mean, did you ever
think
see
about
a shark?
it?
Yeah.
There was one time that we were on this kelp patty, and we jumped in, and John O'Sullivan from the aquarium wanted a white tip, a pelagic white tip, and we were lift pulling little yellowfin, and then some Dorado came through, and we were lift pulling Dorado, and Whitey, Jason Rambatis again, he's like, I want to jump in, I want to go check it out. He's like, sure, go ahead, jump in. He jumps in and swims out from the boat and turns around and comes back to the boat, gets on the swim step, and lo and behold, there's a freaking pelagic white tip, like right.
Oh my God.
Swimming around next to him. And if you don't know what those are, they're very aggressive.
Super aggressive, right? Yeah.
Dangerous. One of the most dangerous sharks.
Did he flip out?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's time to get out, man.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, there was those run-ins with sharks, but we never had any issues really, you know, as far as us being in the water with them. Those guys, there were some of those guys that jumped in with those white sharks at Guadalupe, and I didn't take it that far. That wasn't for me. I jumped in at Guadalupe a number of times, but it was really before those white sharks started showing up. There was like 1 year. There was well, there was a lot of years. There was always white sharks there, but we didn't see them. And then all of a sudden, it was like, wow, there's white sharks. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
That was like in 2000, I think it was, year 2000. They really started showing up. 99.
Yeah, that scares the hell out of me.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, and then they got so bad in the next few years that you just have to quit fishing and whatever. You get a couple sharks on you and have to move the boat.
Oh, I know, right. So you did a lot of this jumping in the water stuff, man. I think that is awesome.
We all did.
Yeah, Tommy Rothra used to tell me he did that a lot.
Pat Kavanaugh and Tim Ekstrom and then we all jumped in the water. Brian Sims, it was good times. That
fringe benefit of the job, right?
Yeah.
The adventure.
Yeah.
The excitement.
What was one thing at now I'm not really honking my horn, I'm just telling you.
Please do.
So we were at Alejos Rocks and we were sitting kind of shallow. Norman was driving the boat, we were on the Shogun, and Ron Fuji hooks this fish, winds it in, I gaff it. It's 88 pound yellowtail.
Whoa.
88 pounds.
That's a big one.
It was a world record.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the time.
Yeah.
And then they beat it on the 105 with the 91. Remember Tom, what was his name? Anyway, Brian Sims was riding the 105 at the time and he beat it over at Westie's hole. Got 91. And like literally like 2 months later, I pull the Shogun up into North Bay at Guadalupe, and KP, Kevin, you know KP?
Yeah.
KP Jig Rig?
Yeah.
And Kevin throws a sardine out at this place called Red Diamond it's just below Pilot Rock there. He throws a sardine out on 25 pound. We were catching like 30 pound yellows and whatever.
Yeah.
He hooks it. He winds it in. It takes a long time to wind in.
You're like giving, hey, come on, wind on that fish. Yeah.
92-1.
Whoa.
We set 2 world records on that Shogun for yellowtail. We got an 88 and then a 92-1.
Does that still hold?
Yeah. Well, no, the IGFA got weird about it. And they allowed these southern yellowtail.
Those New Zealand thing?
But it was in Japan. It was a southern, I don't know. But anyway, they allowed that. So now the record's like 106. So I don't know if we're ever going to beat it.
Yeah.
So, but that's still, the 92-1 is still the largest on the California coast.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That was pretty spectacular.
What did that thing look? Did it even look like a yellowtail when it comes up, or it looked like some other weird? Does it look like an amberjack?
It
looks like a giant yellow.
It was just like a giant yellowtail.
Jeez.
Yeah, the 88 was the same length, but it was super skinny. Which, and the 92 was just a beast. Thing was, it was the biggest yellowtail ever.
Oh my God, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And that was at the Loop, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Loop is, I mean, as far, if I were to, like, and you can do it better than me, but you may not catch the most fish in your lifetime, but you might just catch the biggest fish. Yeah. Just like that, right? Yeah. There was a lot of quality fish.
That was another love-hate kind of place.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, because just, picking away at them, and you could do really good, or you could just not do good at all.
Yeah.
Just one of those trophy kind of
You kind of have some places to go from there, though, right? It's not like being at Clipperton.
Well, no, you just come straight west and you're at Benitez.
Yeah.
Or straight east, almost straight east. And then, but not anymore.
I know. That's over with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as I know. I talked to some of the guys in the long range fleet, and they gave me the rundown of it, and it's like, all that's gone. Yeah. You're gonna have to, if you're gonna fish sea dress, which is absolutely mind-blowing yellowtail fishing, best in the world. Yes. And you have to go down. You have to fly down there.
Yeah. And they're gonna keep it that way, I think, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
For the locals.
I don't know why they wouldn't.
Yeah, I know. Right. So, and so, any other thing from the Shogun that you want to share with us before we start talking about the Fortune? I think the Fortune is your next step, or not?
Yeah. I had a lot of good times on the Shogun.
Yeah.
We did a trip down to almost the equator. We ran for 23 days.
Oh my God.
We left San Diego, and it was a radar over the horizon, long distance radar, and they were tracking us from Arizona and Texas. And we put this antenna on the back of the boat, and they would tell us where they want to go, where they wanted us to go, and we ended up almost on the equator. We went all the way down to the equator, and then they just had us go back and forth. Like, okay, run 16 hours at 10 knots, 9 knots going this direction.
That sounds a little monotonous.
Oh, it's terrible. 28 days.
Yeah.
And we never turned the motors off for 20.
So you're not fishing or anything?
No, we couldn't.
Could you troll?
There wasn't anything out there anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, we were literally, we were way below Clipperton.
So you never saw like anything, like a cool
saw
whale?
A few boats.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No wildlife. I mean, no fish. Yeah.
Nothing to speak of. I think we caught a sailfish and some skipjack, and really not much.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was just a gig that probably Frank got, and it was a good paying gig. So
Ted Dunn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are good paying.
I'm sure they are, right?
You know, no percentages or
right.
whatever.
No bait. You don't have to catch any fish. You just
exactly.
turn this way, turn that way.
You're just burning fuel.
Yeah. And so you guys obviously had to go and fuel quite a bit, right?
No, we carried, the Shogun carries, Shogun's big.
Yeah.
Like it's not long. It's only 92 feet.
Yeah.
But it's as wide as the Royal Polaris.
So like 113 feet
90,
long.
it's 92 by 30.
Oh, shoot. And the Royal's like 31 or something, right?
It's really close. They're very close to being the same width.
Yeah.
But it's just shorter.
Yeah.
That's what makes it slow.
Yes.
And it is what it is.
Yeah.
The Shogun, I know you can push it harder and whatever, and they put some new mains in it and this and that, and I'm sure it's faster than what it used to be when I was on it. But it was, it was kind of slow.
Like what, 10 knots or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't do 12.
Right.
Like, these other long range guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Red Rooster was doing 14 at times, you know, like crazy.
Yeah, when he wanted to crank it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but the Royal Polaris was cruising at like 11 and a half.
Yeah.
11.3.
And that makes a difference, doesn't it?
A huge difference if you're traveling 48 hours.
Right.
Down to the rocks or whatever. Yeah. That gives you hours and hours of fishing time.
Yep. Any great memories from the rocks on the Shogun?
Well,
what a magical place that could be.
We got that one fish, the 88-pounder, big yellowtail, and we had some really spectacular yellowtail fishing. A lot of that bigger yellowtail we got was on the bank, like that Alijos bank out in 46 fathoms. It's kind of funny because you'd think 46 fathoms, and up here you're catching reds and whatever.
Right.
If it's allowed, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, right.
back when we could fish 46
right, there's
fathoms.
reds in 46 fathoms, right?
Yeah. and then down there, you're like catching yellows. It's standard practice to catch yellows in 50 fathoms.
Yeah.
On dropper loops, 300 feet down there and winding them up.
Wow.
But yeah, there was really some really good. I like the yellowtail fishing down there, and wahoo fishing too was pretty off the hook. But
did you ever see one of those crazy like fall marlin bites that I know if long range guys don't really, but you get into that where everybody on the boat's hooked up to a marlin.
It's funny you bring that up because on the Royal Star we did fly fishing trips down there off of Mag Bay for marlin.
Oh shoot!
And we had the skiffs, so we took 3 inflatable skiffs, and we'd find marlin and we'd hook them on the big boat, and then dump the guy in the skiff, and you'd go chase the marlin in the skiff.
How bitten?
And we'd be like 25 miles off of Mag Bay or 30 miles off of Mag Bay.
Yeah.
And you're just like, there goes the skiff, and he's fighting the marlin, and then the big boat like goes this way. And like, where'd he go?
Yeah,
like
really?
He's gone.
I hope we can find him.
You gotta, we had a radio in our backpack and flares or whatever, and so you had some stuff.
Yeah.
But it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
You have your little 25-horse outboard fighting a marlin, and
you get caught up in fighting the marlin and everything, and all of a sudden you look and
he's
gone.
You kind of head that direction.
Yeah, and hope that you find him.
Keep your eye open.
Yeah, exactly.
There was one time we were fighting a marlin, and it was a big one, and we had it. On a fly rod, sometimes they take a long time to wind in. This one was taking hours, and the sun went down, and Tim was way out, and I had to guide him in by his running lights. I'm like, okay, I see your red light, turn to port a little bit so you could see both lights, and they knew you'd be coming at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those marlin trips were really, that's when you say everybody had one on.
Yeah.
Like we would get, with the fly rods, everybody would have one on.
How cool,
And,
right?
and just like, they're just going crazy. So all three of the skiffs would have 1 or 2 marlin, and they would be fighting marlin. And then there would be like 2 or 3 marlin on the boat hung up.
Wow.
So all of us were, all these marlin are jumping around. And they would just be like going through, when you go to hook them, they'd be going through bait balls. And sometimes, you'd be done catching your marlin, and you'd be running back to the boat, and then a bait ball with marlin would pop up. Like, what are you going to do? You're not going to run past it.
No.
So you stop, you turn the motor off, and you get your guy in there, and he's like casting to marlin with the fly rod off of Mag Bay, stripping, hanging marlin, and it's in an inflatable, in a 14-foot inflatable.
Wow.
It was so neat. That was so fun.
surreal, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's got to be some of the best fishing in the world.
Oh, off of Mag Bay?
Yeah.
Oh, marlin
During
fishing,
that
absolutely.
time of year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in October, November, even into December sometimes.
Yes.
There was just wolf packs, just like, just 10, 20 of them on the same bait ball, marlin, and just, yeah.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah. It was incredible.
Yeah.
That was in good times.
So let's jump over to the Fortune now. That was your baby for how long?
I had the Fortune for 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
did you run
so
that out of San
I just,
Diego?
Again, I just
Yeah.
felt like I needed a change. And I wanted to do my own thing.
Yeah.
And Frank helped me out. I went to talk to Frank. I gathered up all my money that I had to gather up, and I talked to Randy Toussaint. Me and him were working the Fred Hall show, and I was still on the Shogun at the time. He's like, what are you doing, man? I'm like, I don't know. I'm second on the Shogun, or driving these trips. He's like, you need to buy a boat. You need a little fiberglass hull boat. That's what you need to do.
Uh-huh.
And I what was the comment? He told me, this is Randy, this is classic Randy.
Yeah.
You need to quit underachieving. Just like that. It was like eye to eye, you need to quit underachieving.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's like, you need to go buy a boat.
And do you feel like that hit you?
Oh, absolutely.
It motivated you?
Oh, yeah.
Because he had your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But he was looking for a way to...
He was a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And when he said that, the truth of it was just like, you're right. And then he said, you may not have any money, but so you just got to go and beg, borrow, steal, do whatever it takes to come up with that down payment.
Yeah.
And I sat back and I thought about it. I thought about it for a couple days and whatever. And shoot, I think it was by the time at the end of the show, I was riding home with Frank. We both were staying in the same room, and I'm like, Frank, I want to buy a boat. I'm going to start looking for a boat. And he sat there. He thought about it. Like, okay, you should go buy a boat. And then, so
that was easier than you thought it was going to be.
Well, kind of.
Yeah.
But then the other thing that Frank said is, there's two kinds of people in the world. There's people that talk about buying a boat, and there's people that go buy a boat.
So another push.
Yeah.
Another nudge. Not so subtle nudge.
It's easy to sit around and talk about, this boat is this and that, and you could do here and that. But no, you go and do it.
That's good advice for anything in life, because a lot of us talk about, I should do, but and you never go do it.
Yeah.
It's the kind of advice you'd give your kids, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's what I did. I didn't have family money per se. I just went to people that I knew, and whether my dad had a little bit here, this person had a little bit over here, this person had a little bit over here. I came up with a down payment. I looked around for the best deal I could find. I traveled up and down the coast, went up to San Francisco and looked at the boats up there, the Salty Lady and this and that, you know, the new Sea Angler and this. Learned about fiberglass hulls because I didn't know anything. I was just a long range guy. Dealt with steel and aluminum my whole life. And learned all about fiberglass boats in that time frame.
So you did your homework.
Oh yeah. I mean, to get these people on board,
right?
You know, I'm gonna have to go, and I presented them with a book of my plan.
Yeah.
And whatever, because again, I didn't have any credit. The bank wasn't going to give me $150,000 or $160,000. You know.
Yeah.
And to go buy a business.
Yeah.
That might fold up in a year.
Good. Right. Yeah.
So I had to go with the people that knew me. And fortunately, I made a lot of really great contacts on the Shogun.
Yeah.
And they backed me. So.
And you haven't forgotten them, obviously. I can see that.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no, they changed my life. Absolutely. Like, we have a house now because of that.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
We have, my daughters are going to be going to college and whatever for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big change. And Randy too. You know, if he never would have said anything, I'd probably still be driving the Shogun.
Right. And Frank also.
Norman might still be there. You know, no telling.
Yeah.
How it would have worked out.
Yeah.
But so then the great thing about the Fortune was I went down to look at the tracer. Remember Tommy Sherrill had the tracer at that time?
Yeah. And was Steve running it, or Tommy was running it?
No, Steve wasn't running it. Steve was already down in Belize.
Oh, okay.
Tommy had it for a few years, and he was like over the sport fishing thing, and he was going to take it up north for albacore. And I went down to look at it, and like literally like 2 days before, he had started cutting the bunk room apart to make a fish hold.
Oh, wow.
He's like, man, if you would have been here 2 days ago,
I would have sold it to you.
Yeah, you could have worked something out.
Yeah.
And as I'm standing there on the dock talking to him, he's like, well, you should just buy that one. And I look over, and there's the Samurai, which was the Fortune.
Yeah.
It was renamed and had been repoed because they hadn't paid their insurance bill.
Oh, wow.
And it was chained to the dock.
Yeah.
So again, I went and did all my homework, and went and talked to Ted, went and talked to Dean Adams, talked to Frank, and did all this and that. And I had money, and Frank said, "Okay, well, since you have this amount, I'll go ahead and back you for this amount." It's like, okay, now we have some horsepower.
Yeah.
You know. And I went and contacted the marshals, and it was a marshal auction. And so nobody had been through a marshal auction in the sport fishing fleet. We didn't know what it was. But the only way the Fortune or the Samurai at the time was going to be sold was through a marshal auction, because it had so much debt attached to it. And through a marshal auction, all that debt gets wiped away.
Discharged. Okay.
Done.
Yeah.
Nobody can come back for anything.
Great.
And it was a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot of money associated with that boat. So we had come up with a price. I had a price in my head. I went there, and went to the auction, and there was 2 other guys there at the auction. There was me, that bid on it. There was me, the previous owner.
Oh, really?
Because if he bought it,
he'd have all those debts discharged.
Gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, that's wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And Paisano was there.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah, because Paisano, you're figuring.
Paisano's here. He's on the landing.
Yeah.
This is the guy. He's gonna just squash me.
Outbid me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I had Dean with me and Ted with me. So I had some guys in my corner. You know, like some heavy hitters. Those guys, they knew I was there. They knew I was there to buy a boat. And so the bidding started at $150,000. And I raised my paddle at $150,000. And then we went back and forth with this other guy. Paisano never raised his paddle. Went back and forth. We got it to $165,000, which is public. At this point, you know, it's whatever.
Yeah.
It's on public record.
Yeah, right.
And it got to $165,000, and the guy's like, he's like, whatever.
I'm outta here.
He's obviously, we're just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
And I said, well, yeah, because I'm gonna buy a boat. And so he opted out at 165. Paisano's standing right there. I look at him.
And you're praying he's not gonna raise his
yeah,
paddle.
they're like, okay, first call, second call, and I'm like, that's my bid, right? They're like, yeah, your number, blah blah blah, for 165,000. They're like, sold. Chuck Taft was there, Bobby Taft was there. They're like, what? Like, what? That just sold for how much? How much?
Well, they weren't paying attention, or what?
Well, they didn't know how it was going to go. Nobody really knew.
You got it for 165.
I got the fortune for $165,000. Now,
wow.
Granted, the thing had been sitting at the dock for a long time.
It needed a ton of work
for
and
like
a lot
a year,
of money. Yeah.
Over a year.
Yeah.
So I had to, you know, haul it out and do whatever, put a bunch more money into it. But
yeah.
I got it. I paid it off.
That's great.
Except, I mean, obviously, I knew I owed all these people.
Yeah. Right.
the money.
Right.
But I paid them off like right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's funny that Chuck Taft and Bobby Taft are all like,
oh
what
yeah,
the heck?
So yeah, they were like kind of all over it. Like boats that came up, like the Top Gun and these other boats, like the Old Glory or this and that. You know, those guys, they didn't miss out. Then they didn't miss out.
Yeah. They figured it out after that.
Really quick.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's my, you know, so that's
a
how
great
I got
story.
The fortune.
Yeah.
I felt like I won the lottery.
I'm
did.
Sure you did.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did. I won
there
like,
you go.
I should have had to spend like $350 on it at the time. And that's what my other people were saying. It's probably worth $350 or whatever, you know, at the time of the condition that it was in. And because it didn't have a business, it didn't come with anything. I bought a boat. Like usually when you go and buy one of these boats, whether it be the Pride, like Sean just bought, or whatever, Shogun, you're buying a business.
Yes.
Like you're buying the boat, and
but you get a book of business too, right?
Yeah. But the business comes with it.
Yes.
So you're getting
80
like
charters or whatever.
Yeah. You're getting a lot of money, so you're going to make your payments.
Yes.
You know. So I went and bought that boat, and I started building a business, and it built right away. So I had a lot of support from past Shogun passengers.
Yeah. So they all started to charter with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a surprise to me that how many people that fished long range fished short trips, fished day trips. And that was just it was like a mind-opening eye-opener for me.
Yeah, you thought they were just long-range guys?
I never thought they went 2-day fishing and overnight fishing and whatever. And all these guys that fish long range, well, they fish long range, but they come up here and they fish calicos.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
In the wintertime, we built a calico business, you know, fishing calicos, charters to San Clemente Island, like Steve Tanaka did. I tried to follow his. I always felt that Steve Tanaka was a really good. For one thing, he was a phenomenal fisherman, but he was good at running the boat and good at booking charters or whatever, you know. And he was like the original owner of the Fortune. Before the Fortune changed the name.
So he was a good business guy too. Also, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He ran a good boat.
Yeah.
He caught a lot of fish. Shoot, I mean, there's spots at San Clemente Island named after him.
Right.
Steve's.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of follow that business plan, and so I just immediately started going to 22nd Street Landing and running charters, starting in March, and codfish and calicos and whatever else, surface kind of things, and built a business on that, and then go back to Fisherman's Landing. Yeah, I've worked out of Fisherman's Landing my whole life. I mean, once I started in sport fishing, I've always been out of Fisherman's.
Yeah, Royal Polaris, Shogun, Royal Star,
and the Fortune. I took the Fortune there. So yeah, that's where I work.
And there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that go into making a business like that go. I mean, it consumes an incredible amount, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
like when you're off the boat, you're booking charters.
Yeah.
And then when the boat's sitting there, you're going down and working on the boat. and fixing things or making improvements on it.
Yeah.
Not just during that one boat work phase for the 2 months that you paint the outside of the boat or do the rails or whatever. It's like if you're in for a week, you
got stuff to do.
and doing stuff. Yeah. And then you're getting in from a trip and you got 5 phone calls to answer because charters want to move their dates or whatever. You know, it's a business.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's.
Is it hard on your family life? You got an understanding spouse, right?
Yeah, long range was harder.
Yeah, because you're away.
Because you're away,
and then you're in for a couple hours and gone again.
Yeah, long range. We figured it was good. 22 days was a good time, a good stretch.
Yeah,
and then you'd come home for 7 or 10 or whatever, couple of trips, and then go back out for like 22 days. 33 days was getting kind of long. You know, of course, 40 or 50 days or whatever is like. It's too much.
Yeah.
You really start getting an attitude.
Did you so you had some of those stretches of 40 days, 50 days?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
When you're young, when you're 25,
right.
20,
that's
30,
all you want to do.
Yeah, you're working 40, 50 days. You're working back to back. One thing really cool about the back then working long range trips, especially the long trips. Like I tried to work all the long trips, and Tim and Randy understood that. They're super good with their crew. And they would. So guys that are working a lot, working every trip, they would fly us down to Cabo and fly us back, so you didn't have to stay on the boat.
Oh wow!
For fly down, fly backs.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So you could get at least 3 days off, maybe 6 days off in between all these long trips.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were great. They were great. Great bosses.
Yeah.
They were hard too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Those guys are freaking sticklers. They run a tight ship.
Yeah.
And but they treated you well.
I like the way that you're so, first of all, this is a great podcast because you are so personable and I love your stories and they've been so interesting to me, but you're a very humble guy, but I love the fact that you acknowledge these people who were instrumental in your success. In other words, you're not sitting there telling me, yeah, I did this, I built this by myself and I did it. You acknowledge that you had people chip in financially. You acknowledge that you got this advice from Frank and from all these people. I really like that about you.
Well, thank you. I take that as a compliment.
It's meant as one.
Yeah. So, but it's been a great run.
Great run.
And I'm not done.
Yeah, you're here. Here you are. We're gonna go catch bluefin tonight.
Yeah. So then, up to about last year, I kind of got fed up with not my passengers. Obviously, I love my charters, and a lot of them are funny. They're on the Pride, but it was just the
paperwork and everything, like the Coast Guard and the and the Fish and Wildlife.
The Coast Guard. And the Coast Guard, they're pretty good people, They're kind of like Fish and Wildlife. They're always smiling and they're friendly.
Yeah.
And then they write you a ticket. You get a ticket in the mail.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Like, wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense.
That guy was a nice guy.
Yeah.
No, they're not your friends.
Right.
They're just there to do your job. And so and the Clean Air Board and the and the insurance and this and that. And
that starts to wear and tear on you, doesn't it? Yeah.
And
did it get to be too much to the point where you're like, I'm not enjoying this anymore?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So and towards the end, I'll be honest with you, I felt like I wasn't doing a good job.
Yeah.
I had somebody else running the boat who was doing a good job and catching fish.
Yeah.
But I wasn't there. I was taking a lot of trips off. I didn't have my heart in it. And it wasn't right.
Yeah.
I didn't want to string it along until the very end where it's just like you're just grasping at straws.
I completely
you just learn and you lose it.
Yeah.
You just lose the boat for some reason.
I completely understand.
So I talked with my family about it, whatever, and I wasn't happy and where I was at. And so we just sold the boat.
Yeah.
There's always people looking for boats.
Yeah, yeah.
It seems like there's always an up and comers and whatever. And man, the kid I sold it to, he's a killer.
Is he? Who is he?
He's like, I think he might be the best fisherman in the fleet.
Really?
I don't know.
Check or rundown report on the house instead. Trying to figure out.
turn that down. Don't want me to put it on you.
Yeah.
Secret dope.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, Jeff Walker, he's a good fisherman.
Yeah.
And Marcus, I talked to Marcus about it, and he's like, oh yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
And you see it on all the posts.
Does that make you feel good that it's in the hands of somebody that
and he's really put a lot of work into the boat. He's done well.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with the way the boat went. And I'm happy to see the boats being successful again.
Yeah.
Not that it wasn't successful at the end. I think I cut it soon enough to where we were still, making a profit and this and that. But now it's doing what it should be doing.
Right.
It's in good hands.
As I listen to your story, there's been these moments throughout your life where you got to a point where you said, I need to do something else, or I'm not happy, or you're underachieving, as Randy said, and you weren't afraid to take another. Sometimes you get into something, and people say, you just stay with that for the next 40 years. I know you might be a little miserable, and you might want to slit your wrist once in a while, and that really isn't it takes some huevos to make a change, but it's for the better.
I grew up in Hemet, and there was a couple of people that fished in my family, but that was it.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in a fishing family, but I loved fishing, so I had to like strike out on my own and do my own thing.
So here you are back.
Hemet.
You're back here on the Pride now.
Yeah.
And you're jumping on every once in a while. Do you feel like, since you're not doing it full time and you're not dealing with the paperwork so much and everything, it's enjoyable again?
Yeah, it is, and it isn't.
Yeah.
It's always.
You're a very honest guy. I love you, Bruce.
It's always hard to get back on the boat.
Yeah.
In the first few days, it takes like 3 or 4 days just to be able to go
back
to sleep,
in the swing of things. Yeah.
And not being used to taking showers, and how crowded it is, and brushing your teeth out of a water bottle. Like I told you earlier. But I look forward to coming back. Yeah. Especially if something's biting.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we've had a phenomenal day today. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And there's been those special moments.
That was the first time I've been to San Nicolas in a year.
Really?
Oh yeah, and I just wanted to go back so bad.
Yeah, and I'm glad you did.
I love it. I think I've spread my ashes there.
You got a long way to go, Bruce.
I don't know. But it's just one of those places it's not overrun yet. It's getting used now, for sure. In the last 10 years, you definitely saw a lot more boat traffic and this and that, but it's still good.
Oh my God, the sheep's head fishing?
Yeah.
I mean, when we first started today, guys were catching these 10-pound sheep's head, and everybody was going, oh my God, look at, and they were all excited.
Oh yeah.
And then, like, when we caught the number 100, everybody, oh, another sheep's head. They got used to it. It was that good today. Yeah. It was phenomenal. Yeah. Throwing a few sea bass, a bunch of whitefish, some big reds. Yeah. Everybody on this boat has fresh fish to take home, which is super important.
Yeah, we knocked that out.
And so if we catch bluefin tonight, it's going to be bitching.
Yeah.
If we don't, though, bluefin can be bluefin.
I feel we made a good use of a day.
Me too.
There's not a whole lot of stuff going on during the day right now.
That's right.
There's occasional Dorado kelp if you're lucky. And that was one that I heard of in amongst the fleet.
Today?
Yeah.
Oh. It was slow today.
There's 12 boats out here that didn't find a Dorado kelp.
Oh my God.
So I feel that right at this point, I definitely feel we made the right decision.
Me too. 100%.
We didn't miss anything.
And everybody down on deck feels the same way too. They're all really happy.
That's good.
Yeah. All right. I don't know what to say other than this was a great podcast. The first podcast that we've ever done that was interrupted by a bluefin tuna foamer, because most things we do in a studio.
Yeah.
So that was a special moment. In fact, I said to you as we were micing up, I said, wouldn't it be something if we rolled across a bluefin foamer? Yeah. And I look out and I go, hey Bruce, what's that?
Yeah.
That's a bluefin foamer.
Hopefully they don't see one going by us in the background,
I know. You and I are PS, and oh my God, they drove right by that giant foamer. I can't believe while they're talking about this nonsense.
Yep.
Too much. Well, thanks. It's really good to see you again, because we have You know, we were talking almost every day there for
a
while, 30 years ago or whatever it was.
Yeah, one other thing is the first time I was ever on 976, I was a passenger on the Pacific Queen. It was like in 1988.
Wow, it's right when I got started.
Yeah. Oh, it was brand new. Like it was a big deal.
Yeah, I know.
And I had been calling it, you know, at home, listening, and you were getting these on the water reports.
Right.
Such a big deal.
Yeah, it was.
And I was on the Pacific Queen, and little Eddie was driving.
Oh, geez, little Eddie.
Yeah. Little Eddie was driving.
Little Eddie was a little strange at times.
Man, he was. that trip was one of them. But we absolutely caught the snot out of the yellowfin. Like we had 2 stops that we both handed both of them off. We had hundreds and hundreds, and he called me up. He's like, "Hey, kid, you want to be on the radio? You want
really
9/7?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I went up there. He's like, you know, we called in KMI over the radio.
Right, I remember.
He's like, "Okay, push this button and tell them what you saw." And I'm like, I push the button. I'm like, "We were catching them on 40 pound, 60 pound, 80 pound in the corner, and blah, blah, blah." You know, it was such a cool
and I'm sure
thing.
I heard that and I went, "Oh my God, this is gold. I can't wait to put it out there."
That was my first time on 976.
That is so cool. I had no idea.
Oh yeah.
You were on the Queen.
You were kind of instrumental.
You know, I remember I went to a SAC meeting and I had been dealing with Clicker and Tom Rothery. And that was it, pretty much. It was like 85. And I walked into the meeting, they both looked at me and they go, "What are you doing here? Get out of here. We don't want anybody else to know about you."
Yeah.
It was so funny, you know, because they were getting like business.
Oh, yeah.
They were doing really well because it was new and it was a novel kind of thing. And those were fun days, I have to admit.
Yeah.
Really fun days.
Yeah.
All right, Bruce. Thank you so much. Great to see
welcome.
you. Thanks for spending some time with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
How long do you think we talked here? If you had to take a guess.
Probably 45 minutes.
An hour and a half.
No
Time
way.
flies when you're having fun, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. You told
really
so many
something.
great stories. I'll tell you what, we're going to have to do a Bruce Smiith #2 someday because I know you got more great stuff. Awesome time spending with you. So many fascinating stories. And let's do it again soon.
Okay.
All right.
You got it.
Thank you, Bruce.